Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the broadcast. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. It is Tuesday, August 13th, 2019. I'm here with you again for another edition of the broadcast. Thank you so much for joining me yet again. Lots to talk about and discuss. Obviously, lots has gone down since the last show I had last week. So, you know what I'll be getting into and talking about tonight. So, I'll give you my take on all things going on and get into some other news, etc. for you here on the show. I wanted to have more shows and more stuff out for you now. And at the same time, I didn't want to, I didn't want to alarm anybody, or I didn't want to, I don't know. I just didn't want to bitch about it. It's just weird timing. It's just weird timing. Every time I seem to get on to some new hardcore fucking information, right around that exact same time, there seems to be something weird goes on with my health. And I got to tell you, I'm not somebody who ever gets sick. I've got a healthy immune system. I never get the flu or colds or anything like that. Every time though, when I'm working on some heavy information, I get hit with weird shit. I had all those weird dental stuff and the Bell's palsy. I dealt through all that. And then I fell ill after we were without air conditioning for a week here at the studio. And thought I got over that. But apparently I had some stuff that went along with it I didn't even know about. I had some I've had these before, but not in about 10 years or so. But even then, it was only one. I had like 4 or 5 of these like cyst boil things on my legs that normally you could feel those things. They were like in between my legs and shit, and I couldn't, my thigh, I didn't feel it, couldn't feel it. It wasn't in pain like it had been before, and I just sort of accidentally noticed it. And I had like fucking staph infection and shit, so I had to just now kind of getting over that. I didn't want to get up here and bitch and piss and moan about it. I just wanted to wait until I was feeling good again and then let you know what's going on. But I seem to be on the other side of it now. But yeah, it's always sucks when that happens. But I think I'm doing better now. So all the boil cyst stuff is gone and stuff, and almost completely gone. There's just a little bit of remnant left, but anyway, that's why I haven't been here. That's why you haven't heard from me. Obviously, with Epstein's death on Friday, you knew I was going to get up here and talk about that. So we'll definitely get into all that for you here tonight. Again, as usual, since I haven't been on air and stuff, I haven't been able to tell you to support our work. So definitely, usual thing, get yourself some downloads, hit up the contribution banner, the campaign page for the operating costs of the month. Let's go and throw some in the kitty this week for us. If you can, you can also hit up our, it's only got about 3 days left. We've got the campaign to try and get a new computer in here so we can upgrade this dinosaur that's almost 10 years old and just up our game in every level with getting some new equipment. That would really help. So you want to contribute to that, you can as well. Get yourself a membership to the archives, the listeners' archives, so you can get the shows within seconds of them being posted. You don't have to wait for 2-3 hours like it takes for me to get them up on YouTube. And you can always ensure that no matter what may happen in the future with any of these platforms like YouTube and others, regardless of that, even if YouTube erase my channel tomorrow, the show will go on, and it will go on, and you'll be able to get it in the that's the service I pay for. That's part of our operating costs every month. I pay for that, and then we get people to subscribe, and then that helps offset some of that monthly stuff as well. But that will just ensure that you always get the shows, and you're not getting who knows what YouTube's going to continue to do with this stuff. So make a contribution and help us out this week, because I had to spend some money, what little bit we've gotten in and stuff. I've had to spend a lot on getting myself back up to health here again. So That's really the most important thing. But it is weird, the timing of it. Every time I get onto some hot research, all of a sudden I start to have weird health shit that's never been a problem before. I could speculate all day on that, I guess. It's interesting, though. Man, you should have seen, what was it, Friday when, the whole Epstein thing went down. God, they were blowing me up like a motherfucker that day, son. God damn. But it's hilarious because, all of us who've been following this case for years, really. I don't know. It's just funny. It's just like every time the election cycle starts, every time it gets about a year before the election, every motherfucker who didn't give a shit and would get mad at you if you even remotely started to bring up anything political or whatever, then all of a sudden it gets around the elections and every fucking body and their grandmother's a goddamn political expert all of a sudden. And I put a fucking post up last time it happened. I was like, yeah, you motherfuckers all go back to sleep now that the election's over, but I'll still be here like I always am, exposing both sides, left, right, center, doesn't matter. And now the same thing's happened with this Epstein thing. Now all of a sudden, people didn't give a shit about this stuff before. Now all of a sudden it's the hot topic, and now suddenly everyone's an Epstein expert. And right after I put out that video talking about how Joe Rogan never talked about it, all of a sudden he talks about it like a week after I put that video out or whatever. Yeah, that's interesting too. But there's so much bullshit going around, so much disinformation flying around, ridiculous theories, not even just based on a complete level of assumption that's just assuming whatever the obvious answer is. It's not, none of these theories are really coming from an educated place of knowing the origins of all this stuff and what it truly all connects to. These people are just making blind in the dark fucking throws. I don't know which one's most ridiculous. We can start from the top and work our way towards the most plausible, I guess. And you know who I got to give the award to for the most ridiculous one yet, right? I mean, he's never going to let you down. Your boy, Alex Jones. Yeah, he didn't disappoint. I was shocked, though. I got to be honest with you. Even for him. I mean, he's taken his disinfo to a whole complete other level here where it's so obvious that it's disinfo that I don't even... I can't even tell you what audience he is even directing this ridiculous theory at. It makes no sense to me. The only people I can think about that might even possibly remotely think it's true are just complete. I'm talking about, like, I'm not just calling somebody a tard. I'm talking about like real clinical you can't even call it that anymore. Let's just say that I think the only people that could possibly believe this are really seriously clinically mentally challenged people. Like Franklin Beans level type people. It's flabbergasting to me. The Chi-Coms? You're fucking kidding me, right? The Chinese communists killed Epstein? I mean, in what universe? I mean, that is so blatantly and clearly disinfo. It's shocking. You wouldn't think that Jones could do anything anymore in terms of disinformation and lies that would surprise me. That shocked me. I couldn't even believe that. It's like he's not even trying anymore. And I'm sure there's probably some dumbasses out there like, I won't name any names, like Eddie Bravo or Sam Tripoli. Yeah, I'm putting you on blast, Tripoli. This motherfucker, Sam Tripoli, him and Eddie Bravo, I think they've got to be the two absolute. If they're not 100% complete and utter shills, and I don't think they are, I just think they're fucking dumbasses, both of them. These guys believe everything's a conspiracy against Trump. They both buy all the fucking alt-right conspiracy. Eddie Bravo believes every conspiracy is real except the ones that actually are. I'm not kidding you. Everything he believes is some disinfo lie. And I've heard, I'm putting you on blast, fucking Sam Tripoli. I'm putting you on blast, son. I'm sick of this shit. I've been sitting back here for a long time, a year or so. I continue to hear this. I continue to see motherfuckers that I know, people who I've interviewed, people I've been on shows with, I won't name names, who've gone on his show. I've heard him time and again on multiple podcast interviews. I have heard Sam Tripoli quoting my information word for word. Word for word. It's one thing to take some information and change it. I have heard Sam Tripoli word for word quoting me on multiple podcasts. Now, I hadn't said anything about it. I waited. I just was like, fuck it, whatever. Once it happens 4 or 5 times, then I'm like, all right, I got to say something. Multiple times I've heard him quoting my stuff. I've heard him quoting my Courtney Love information, stuff that nobody else has found, stuff that is anywhere on the internet that he could have found anywhere else that only I have found, that I've talked about on the show, which I know I shouldn't have. I've heard him quoting that stuff. I've heard him quoting me on the Von Braun stage alien invasion thing and butchering that. Anyway, you're on blast, motherfucker. This guy tries to ignore me. He acts like he's Mr. Conspiracy Guy. And he acts like I don't exist. You never hear him say my name. He's never asked me to come on his show, nothing like that. And yet I constantly hear him quoting my information and skewing it towards alt-right stuff. And I guess either thinking that I'm not going to notice or that nobody else is going to notice because he's, thinks he's some elite Hollywood podcasting guy. Thinks, because now he's hung out with Alex Jones because Alex Jones has been on the show. I sort of got him and Alex Jones looked like they were doing coke together. Anyway, I just wanted to let you know, Sam Tripoli, that I'm on to you, motherfucker. And I know you've been listening to my show, and I know you've been biting my shit and not even changing it up. Okay? But I can't imagine who in their right mind would believe or have... Listen, there's no... Chinese communists. I mean, it just doesn't even make any sense. What's the other one? What's the other implausible one? Or whatever. Okay, let's just... Well, I don't know if it's implausible or whatever, but let's just go with all the ones everybody's saying. That he killed... Okay, I guess that's probably the second most ridiculous one. That the official story. The only thing more ridiculous than the official narrative they're giving us is Alex Jones's narrative. That's the only thing crazier than the official one. Didn't I just... It's funny, too. I swear to God, I did that show I guess it was last Thursday. And I swear to God, if you go listen to that last show, I had to go double check, but I swear to you in that show, the last show I did that's on YouTube last Thursday, I swear to you it was in that show, or maybe the one before it. But I'm pretty sure it was that one where I said they'll probably kill him and make it look like a suicide. They'll probably fake his death. And then the very next day it all happened. Or 2 days, I can't remember. Was it Friday or Saturday? The documents came out on Friday and then... Right? Or I can't remember. It's already been that many, only a few days. But either way. Yeah, this whole yarn they're spinning now, because they were... You got to remember, I look at the news every single day, 7 days a week, and some stories I look at multiple times. And they were spinning this narrative for weeks. Pretty much ever since he got arrested, ever since they put him where they put him at, they've been spinning this narrative for weeks in the news. You can go and find all these articles where they were already setting up this narrative of this jail is understaffed. They guys are working 4 or 5 overtime shifts. They were already discussing that and putting that in the news in the weeks that led up to his supposed death. So they were already spinning this narrative, and that's always a good sign that you're talking about them creating it, because they did the same thing with 9/11. There was all these stories that came out for like a month before 9/11 where they were pretty much saying, even before that, they were pretty much saying that it was going to happen. And they were putting out these news stories that they would later be able to jump back to and go, see, we told you right here. See this Associated Press article from April 2001. Remember? See right there, we told you Al-Qaeda was a problem. They wanted to blow up targets in America. See, we told you, we warned you. That's the same thing I see here with this whole thing where they're building this narrative around a failure at the jail. This is a total and utter and complete dog shit. All the fucking alt-righters are all saying the Clintons did it. Ridiculous. The Clintons did it. The fucking left-wingers are saying Trump did it. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. All of this is ridiculous. You got some people like Mr. Brzezinski. I don't mean Zbigniew either. I mean, that son-in-law, he was saying, oh, it smells like Russia, smells like Russia. Of course he's going to say that because he's with the other side, because he's married to fucking Zbigniew Brzezinski's fucking daughter. And they're fucking, they got that fucking Polish Ashkenazi. I mean, it's all fucking same shit. But of course they're just going to say Russia, and then that see, because I fell for this too a lot, and everybody's falling for this. I fell for this too before I found out what's really going on. You can't just say Russia did it and that be it. Same as you can't say America did it, whatever it may be, and that be it. The question is, what faction within Russia did it? I don't believe that either faction within Russia, whether it be what we talked about recently with the the old school Russian mafia end, that's the right wing end of it, that's connected to Trump and the CMP and all that. There's honestly, there was no benefit for either the right wing or the left wing side of the Russian mafia, the left wing side being connected to Vladislav Doronin and the Clintons and all that, and then the right wing end. There's no tactical benefit for either side to have murdered Jeffrey Epstein. There's just not. And I don't know how many of you noticed this, or I don't know. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people may have heard about it, but go look this up if you haven't. It's true. But it doesn't seem like very many people are talking about it. They said the day that Epstein died, they already said the investigation is going to continue. Because that seems to be the narrative. And even I kind of thought that may have been what was going to go on until they revealed that. You know, I think a lot of people assume this was like an Oswald situation, right? Often before it goes to trial, so he doesn't get up on the witness stand. Well, the trial wasn't even going to happen until summer 2020. So he was presumably going to be on ice until then. But again, the big story here to me in all this is that the investigation is, and the case is ongoing, which there would be nobody on either end of that deal connected to the Russian mafia would have had him taken out if they already knew the case was going to continue anyway. This stuff, that's the whole thing. His death or alleged death here really, honestly, means nothing. This is, I mean, for the first time maybe ever, this is going to go on. The case is going to go on. Doesn't matter if he's dead, not dead, or whatever else. So I don't believe the Clintons had him killed. I believe that's political horseshit, left, right, divide and conquer horseshit. And I believe it's also left, right, divide and conquer bullshit to say that Trump had him killed. But the one thing that hit out of all of this, it does make me think there was Russian involvement, is the fact that Jones is blaming it on the Chekhovs. I mean, that, to me, is the biggest thing about all this. God damn. He's so done, though, and he knows it. He knows it. He's clearly, because I know he has people that monitor my work, he's clearly seen the stuff I've been putting out, and he's clearly heard what I'm on to now. He's acting scared. He really is. Because this is all going to come out. And I've told you, I've in 2011, the Secret Volume 2, man, that's why I put all that stuff relating to because I'd heard that for years, you know, trying to, just like with Pizzagate, it was like part 2 of that, trying to blame all the sex trafficking and all the pedo rings to people that are exclusively left-wingers. And the fact of the matter is, that's what this Epstein thing has shown, is that left-wing, right-wing, it doesn't matter. That all goes out the door. These guys are all into it. Same thing with what I told you about the Russian mafia with these different factions. They're all into sex trafficking, but one side wants to put the other out of business. So if the Russians didn't do it, either side of the Russian mafia, and Trump or Clinton didn't do it, what does that leave us? Well, I think it leaves us at the most plausible explanation. That's that he faked his death. And this is where you probably had the involvement of, if the Russians were going to, if Trump had killed him, I can tell you exactly what they would have done. They would have sent in a tactical team that was probably made up of Russian FSB, which is former KGB. That's the people that own Russia today and all that. They probably would have sent a kill team in there that was disguised as a moving him to another location or whatever it may have been. But if it was his own side, the more right wing end, the more left wing end that's connected to Vladislav Doron and the Clintons and all that, then I would say that they sent in a Mossad extraction team, because that end of their end of the deal, the right wing end of the Russian mafia deals mostly with the Russian FSB and all that. They've got them on their end, and then the left wing end works mostly with Israeli Mossad. That's why you saw so much Israeli Mossad activity going on when Obama was in office, and you had Rahm Emanuel in there and his ties to those guys and the rest of it. And being that that's the end that's more closely tied to Hollywood. Did you guys see? This is what blew me away. Because one of the things that I have found in my research on the Spellcasters 2 and 3 into all these, because believe it or not, I mean, as I've shown, all this stuff connects together. And I've shown how, or one of the things I've come across in my research, I haven't really shown this yet, but one thing that I've come across is that in all of these cases where it's been suspected that someone faked their death, in every case we always see these death photos. We never see death photos. Some regular celebrity dies and it's not suspicious or something. Do you ever see death photos? Did you see Robin Williams death photos? Did you see Tom Petty death photo? You know what I mean? You don't see that. And it's kind of my same argument with why when they have these mass shootings, they never show bodies or blood or, man, they should be showing that shit 100% of the time. This idea that, we can't show that because we have to be respectful to the dead, or, we don't want there to be copycats. Bullshit. You guys, number one, you guys don't give a fuck about anybody's feelings or anything else. Fuck you. Go sell that somewhere else. If they actually showed the carnage and people actually had to see in living color what it looks like when there's one of these mass shootings going down, you would start to see some shit change. People are only experiencing these things now and I'm not blaming video games. I love video games as much as anybody else. What I'm saying is people are only seeing it's being, it's one of those things, the whole thing where you tell somebody they can't have something, they want it even worse. And that's what they're doing by not showing, it should be showing the carnage. Same thing with war. I mean, there used to be a lot more graphic stuff in the news. And they hardly show anything anymore. But what that does is, and I think that's a huge problem. That'll be showing this shit. People need to see what death looks like. People need to see what murder looks like. That's the stuff that's going to keep people from there being copycats and all that. One of the things I've discovered is that they want to try to shield us from the dead. They always either claim privacy or respect or some other bullshit thing that the media we know doesn't have. They give a fuck about your privacy or respecting anyone. Give me a fucking break. But look, every time that you've got one where they're trying to convince you somebody's dead, when you're kind of going, I don't believe it. I think this guy thinks he's dead. They've always got think about Tupac, that bullshit autopsy photo. That came out way after the fact, and that's what they were trying to use to quell down the stuff about people saying that he faked his death. I haven't really talked about this much, but one of the things, the conundrums you're going to see that I present in Spellcasters 2 is I present the case that Kurt Cobain was murdered and who murdered him. And I'm not talking about this bullshit Tom Grant disinfo stuff. Tom Grant's in on it as much as anybody else is, folks. And that's one of the things as I started out just with, I've got a lot of stuff pertaining to the possibility Kurt Cobain was murdered. And I've got a lot of new information that's going to be in the film that nobody's put out yet. But also, at the same time, on the flip side of that, I also present the case that he may have faked his death. That's one thing I didn't expect to happen when I was doing this research to do this investigation. I didn't expect to become convinced through looking at the evidence myself that it's possible that his death was fake. But he's another example. They had the day of or the day after. They had those pictures. They were in People magazine. His supposed body laid out and all that. And then they came out with a picture over the weekend of Epstein's head laying there. They got him on the gurney or something. Look closely at that picture. You can go and find it. I want you to look closely at that picture, the one where you can see his gray hair and you can see it's like he's got a brace, something around his neck. Look closely at that picture and look at the proportions. Look at where his head is and look at where his feet are supposed to be. There's like I think there's two people in the shot, like an EMT or something standing over him. But look at the link from where his head is to where that EMT's standing to the end of that gurney he's on. It doesn't. It's not the right proportions. These guys have the capabilities of doing these kind of things where, to me, it looked like a prosthetic head. I'm not going to lie to you. First, as soon as I saw that picture, that's a prosthetic head. They're good. They've gotten good at them. They're way better than they used to be. Way better. And they've been good for a long time. They've been good for a hot minute. But these prosthetics have gotten so fucking good. Did you guys see the story about a couple weeks ago? The Asian guy was in prison. He got his daughter to, I guess, get him all this stuff made. The latex mask and a wig, and it was like a Hollywood latex mask. Anyway, he dressed up like his daughter that came to see him and then left her ass in there and broke out of jail. Just walked out. And they ended up catching him, and then I heard a follow-up saying that he got murdered in jail like right after that happened. And that's just one example. But listen, those guys, he had the money and the resources to have an extraction team. That motherfucker ain't dead. That motherfucker's sitting in Moscow right now drinking a Moscow Mule and fucking sniffing some 13-year-old panties or something. That's what that motherfucker's doing. What was the other theory? I don't know. But you just have to look at it between what's most plausible. It doesn't seem plausible that he committed suicide. It doesn't seem plausible. Definitely the guards and all these guys were bought off, but that's all. It's easy. Even if the CIA, I'm not saying the CIA did this. I don't see any reason the CIA would have had any involvement in this either. But like I said, they got the files. They've got the pictures. They got the photos. The investigation's ongoing. Whether he's dead or whether he's alive, all this stuff's is coming out. It's not going to not come out now. I mean, the cat's already been out of the bag for a long time. But, the people that he's got dirt on, all that stuff, all the stuff he knows, that's the main thing that we don't know about is all the stuff he has in his head or had in his head. That's the thing. And that's what they're worried about. I mean, they got enough stuff on video and on paper and everything else to connect it to the highest levels. But it's the stuff that he knows personally. I mean, this kind of stuff happens all the time, man. People get put in witness protection. They use the same type of the witness protection thing. Get new identities, plastic surgery. The most plausible explanation is that there was an extraction team sit in, and they got him out of there and staged it and faked it, and everybody got bought off, paid off, and had to sign non-disclosure agreements, and that's it. They were probably in and out of there and had the whole thing done in 5 minutes. That's how easy and efficient they can do something like that. This is interesting. Jeffrey Epstein's death was posted anonymously on the 4chan message board at least 40 minutes before it was officially announced on the news. Because, again, all that stuff was set up. The whole scene, they set it up. You got to remember, man, they do all this stuff. There's a reason why the CIA works closely with Hollywood and vice versa. They set that whole scene up, and they showed you all the pictures. Normally they want to shield you from seeing death or seeing dead bodies. All of a sudden, everybody's immediately talking about conspiracy theories relating to Epstein as soon as his death is announced. And a few hours later, once they know everybody's talking about conspiracy theories, they conveniently, that they didn't put out at that a moment, conveniently hours later, they have some beautiful scene photos for you of them, intubating him on the fucking rack and fucking there's the EMTs and they're wheeling him out in the back. All these convenient photos that normally they don't show, out of respect or out of whatever. No, as soon as it helps back up their narrative, see, they don't want to show you proof and evidence of anything any other time. They tell you fucking people die all the time. Oh, so-and-so died today. He was such a, yeah, blah, 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 move on. And that's it. You're just, you're expected to believe it because they said it. We said it, so it's the truth. All of a sudden now, they're going out of their way to show the photos. Well, what about the camera that they had in the cell? What about the footage from that? Was that conveniently turned off? I'm sure. What about the cameras that were all around that whole place, outside, around? Can we see that? What about all the videos, all the cameras outside and in the halls and everywhere else of that place for an hour before they found him? Can we see that video? How come they're not offering that video up to us? And they're offering up these still photos. See, there it is. There it is. He's dead. See, that's all the proof you need. Yet we could see, if they really wanted to put us at rest, they should have immediately shown us all the footage of whoever came in and out of that motherfucker for an hour before his body was found. But you're never going to see that footage. I mean, they may put stranger things have happened. They may put some out and say this is it, but it's going to be bullshit. Watch, I'll say it, and then tomorrow they'll put out here's the video. There's nobody going in and out for an hour before Epstein's body was found, so he must have killed himself. That 4chan site, I mean, it's just, that's full of spooks and feds and God knows, Russian plants and everything else. I mean, probably it was an anonymous person that, of course, but left a comment that said, don't ask me how I know, but Epstein died an hour ago from hanging, cardiac arrest. That's interesting that they said hanging and cardiac arrest, because they haven't officially said cardiac arrest yet, because they're saying they're waiting the coroner's report. The picture contained an image of Pepe the Green Frog that has become commonly used by right-wing trolls online. So that's interesting. So that would be, that would be somebody who would lean towards more of the Trump camp. So that would make you think that if you were leaning towards the side that thinks that it was Trump and the right-wing Russian mafia had Epstein whacked, that would be, it would be a piece of info I think would lean in that direction if you believe that's what you believe. The information was on the internet around 38 minutes before the first tweet announcing Epstein's death on Saturday was posted by an ABC News reporter at 8:34 a.m. Other 4chan users then asked the anonymous author for more information. The original poster added more information to the discussion thread, including a detailed breakdown of the procedures allegedly used to resuscitate Epstein when he was asked for more information. So this is where it starts to get shady to me, where to me it sounds like he's describing the whole stage scene like you would see in a Hollywood movie. We've all seen that exact kind of stuff. Somebody hangs himself and bring the EMTs in, all that stuff can be easily faked. And that's what it sounds like happened here. They set up this elaborate Hollywood-style scene using prosthetics and everything else to fake his death and then send in a Mossad extraction team. It was thought that the poster may be a first responder given the intricate level of medical information that was given about Epstein. And it says worked as a stolen arrest for 40 minutes, also intubated in the field. Epi, 2 liters NS infused, telemetry advised bicarb and D50 in the field. PT transported to Lower Manhattan ER and worked for 20 minutes and called. This means they called the time of death. Hospital administrator was alerted, preparing statement. So that was the stuff that it was coming at. So obviously that's somebody who knows medical stuff, or maybe that's bullshit too. And they plant this message on with it that seems to be very detailed on 4chan, conveniently 40 minutes before it happens. That stinks too, because they had that all already prepared and everything and up there. I mean, yeah, this is pretty interesting. But again, you can look it up. Type Jeffrey Epstein case or Jeffrey Epstein investigation will continue. Because it seems like that's getting largely overlooked. Everybody's concentrating, talking about all the conspiracy theories. And that should be the biggest conspiracy question of them all. You think these guys didn't know in advance? Of course they did. It makes no sense that either end of Russian organized crime, whether it's connected to Trump or Clinton's or whoever, they would not fucking take a chance and use the resources to execute this guy if they knew the case was going to continue regardless of whether he was alive or dead. And they guaranteed knew that beforehand. Which I believe is why they faked his death. I think once those new documents came out, somebody in the know told him, hey, look, I mean, I'm going to tell you what to do here, but whether you're alive or whether you're air quotes dead, this is happening either way. I mean, the guy had billions and billions and billions. And that money's no good to anybody if he's dead. That money is good to a whole lot of people if everybody thinks he's dead and he's really alive, because that's really the main thing with all this stuff. This is where these guys get involved with people like these Russian mafia types. That's the reason why you would have somebody like Trump get in bed with these guys. But it really makes sense in terms of somebody like Jeffrey Epstein, where you have, what did they say he had? $500,000 or something like that in his bank account when he died? This guy's got hundreds of billions of dollars stashed all over the world. They know the guy was worth billions, but yet officially on paper, no, that's horseshit. That's total horseshit. This guy has billions of dollars. More than enough money 100 times over than it would take to pay somebody to pull this off. They want that money. And that's the big thing with all these Russian mafia guys. They're all into money laundering. When you start making this kind of big money like this from illegal activities, whether it be sex trafficking, drugs, or any of the rest of it, the big problem becomes how do you clean up that money? And these guys like Vladislav Doronin and the rest of these guys have figured it out. That's what I've been on to with this whole thing with this investigation, and started with the Naomi Campbell thing, and then the story came out today. Many of you may have seen it. I posted it on the Gold Reality Facebook page this morning, and it's a whole article about what was her name, the one girl that originally accused Epstein and all that, said she was passed around at these parties. And there's new photos that just came out of her being at these parties. And in all three of these photos, Naomi Campbell's in all of them. I mean, all these elite modeling agencies and all this shit, they're all fronts. They're all fronts for sex trafficking organizations. And Epstein was involved with Victoria's Secret, many other ones that connect back, Vladislav Doronin, Naomi Campbell, the rest of it. And that's where how these guys get in bed with the Russians, is because the Russians can clean that money up. And how a lot of these guys do it is through real estate holdings in other countries. They do it through the precious metals market. There's lots of different ways to do this, but and everybody seems to keep asking, well, how did he make all this money? Nobody can really seem to show how he made it all. Well, obviously it's clearly through sex trafficking first, and money laundering second, because when, as Epstein did, he attracted the biggest of the big names, the most powerful people in the world to him. And it wasn't just because he had a bunch of hot young bitches around him. That's the other narrative they're trying to spin. And I know that's true to a certain degree, but it's not the only reason. The reason when you start having all these powerful people around, it's not just because of the women. It's because they know, Bill Clinton knows, Donald Trump knows, that if you're effectively being able to get away with keeping all that money clean and legit, well, that starts to attract those types too. And I think that's exactly what is the bigger thing here. I don't think it's just about the fact that he was providing underage girls to, elite pedophiles on both sides of the political spectrum, left or right. I think that's, of course, obviously that's huge. Of course, obviously that's the main thrust of this. But I think the other end people aren't really looking at or paying attention to here is the money laundering aspect. And just how many people, these big name people, he helped launder their money using Russian connections to do it. Because don't forget, the stuff that we already found out about Epstein previously and his relationship with Adnan Khashoggi, that was the stuff that came out for what Epstein was doing for Adnan. Go look it up. Remember the lady we talked about on the show a few weeks ago, but you can go and look that up. Remember what the lady said about he basically handled the financials for Adnan? If you go and read that, this was back in the 80s when he was doing this. Clearly, we already know about Adnan and I've documented it on this show for over 10 years. I've been documenting Khashoggi and his whole operation. We all know the newer stuff that's come out. But even as far back as the 80s, we know by reading the reports of Epstein's connection with Adnan Khashoggi, that's clearly what he was doing for him. He was cleaning his money up for him. So if a big, named guy like him connected to fucking half of the big, everything from like 1950 on, the biggest events in the world he was said to be connected to, that was the other thing. He had connections to where if you needed to clean, it wasn't just, I think the girls, to be honest with you, I think the girls were just a byproduct of his main activities. And I think that's what's largely going overlooked here. Because, yes, the sex trafficking shit, yes, it's horrible. The pedophile shit, yes, it's horrible. But it feels like we're just getting that because that's the question nobody seems to want to be answering about Epstein. How do you acquire all this money? Nobody wants to really know about that. Nobody wants to talk about that. He clearly had connections with the Russian mafia, which is why You had that connection that I found with Vladislav Doronin and Naomi Campbell and all the rest of this stuff. These guys are all using him to funnel their money and to clean up their money that they're acquired through the the phony fashion fronts and the phony modeling agency stuff. They're using sex trafficking with elite Hollywood people and all that. And they need a way to clean up all that money. And I think Epstein he was basically the hookup. He was basically the guy. And so because of that, that's what enabled him to build the wealth to be able to build the islands, buy all these houses, and have these stables going around and have nobody really question it for the longest time. Everybody keeps talking about the dirt he had and blackmail videos and all this. And yeah, I'm sure he probably did have all that. But what's bigger than that is that what kept the whole thing and organization going in the first place, and what kept anybody from, people knew this was going on for years. Wasn't it like 2003 was when the first stuff started coming out about him being a fucking pederast? But the fact that he was cleaning up a lot of big people, the biggest names in the world, and even the biggest names in the world, people that you've never heard of. That's who you want to know the truth? That's who the real biggest people in the world are. The most powerful ones are the ones that you've never heard their names. That's the shit that I've started to get into in this most recent research of this Russia stuff. As you start going up, you're like, holy shit. These guys are worth more than anybody that's of the names you see on, whatever that fucking bullshit ass Forbes richest people in the world list, where they come out with it's horse shit. You can find out for yourself in about 5 minutes it's horse shit by going and looking into these Russian oligarchs. And that's just their on paper wealth. That's just the wealth we know about. You never see those guys on those Forbes lists. Yet their wealth dwarfs somebody like Warren Buffett or Bill Gates or somebody like that. Epstein's number one business, I believe, was money laundering. And, if you were going to be towards that end of thinking that he was murdered and that he didn't fake his death, I think it would more likely have something to do with that than whether or not Bill Clinton and fucking was on the Lolita Express plane, or whether, Clinton used to grab him Trump used to grab him by the pussy with Epstein at Mar-a-Lago or whatever. Because again, to me, it goes back to what we talked about originally, even before Epstein died, what I was talking about last week. These, now I lost my train of thought. But what I was talking about last week, even before he died, was all of the, we talked about the right-wing guys and the mafia guys. They're involved in sex trafficking. They're involved in all that stuff, too. The ones on the left are, too. What would be the one's trying to take out the other? I can't remember where I was going with this, but I'll just continue on anyway regardless. But I did lose my train of thought there. Sorry. But yeah, getting back to what I was saying originally, the idea that he was murdered because of these, high-level people's names being on this stuff. Now, I think what it is, I think you fucked somebody over. And, again, everybody we know for a fact, it's been established he was in bed with everybody. Doesn't matter what political end, left-wing, right-wing. He was dealing with people on all sides of it. But to me, it seems like I'm just trying to look at all the motives here. because a lot of people seem to think he was murdered, and they believe that. And if you believe that, I want you to have as much evidence as possible to believe it or disbelieve it, you know? If you think that I don't know. It just seems that if he was whacked, that he was whacked because of something to do with this money laundering. And that some very powerful people who were supposed to have their money laundered didn't even end up getting their money laundered and ended up getting their money possibly stolen. Because who are you going to call? Ghostbusters? Think about it. Put yourself in that situation. You're one of these high-level guys that's involved in drug trafficking, sex trafficking, whatever. You're a high-level person connected to high-level shit. People know who you are. You need to clean this money up. You go to Epstein to have him clean your money up for you. Oh, by the way, you into girls? Hey, why don't you come on my island and I'll get your money cleaned up for you. Come hang out on my island. We got hotties over there. I mean, they definitely could have been doing blackmail stuff that way, but I think about it. If you took your money to him to launder and he ended up ripping you off essentially, or essentially saying, well, you know, we tried to do this and that, but it didn't work, so we lost the money. Because we don't know what deals he was in the process of doing, or what people's whose money he was in the process of dealing with when he got busted. You understand? He may have had deals pending that went up in smoke as soon as he got arrested. So if you're one of these high-level guys and you took your money to Epstein and he goes down, or one of his schemes to clean up your money didn't work and you lose your money, who are you going to call? Who are you going to go to? You going to go to the cops? You can't go to the authorities. What are you going to tell the authorities? Hey, I gave this guy $50 million in drug money to clean up, and he ripped me off. Go get him. Fuck no. And he would have known that. Hey, fuck yeah, he would have known that. At some point, somebody either told him or he came to the realization he was no dummy. He came to the realization on his own. You know, some of these motherfuckers, I mean, I can definitely, I don't want to rip this person off or whatever, but I could just say I tried to clean their money up and something happened and circumstances happened and, oh, you lost your money. Because then, again, there's nobody you can go to. Except you could go to the mafia. They love that kind of shit. So I will entertain the idea. It is possible that due to activities that connected him with the money laundering, which again, it's just interesting. Both of these sides, whether it be the right wing side or the left wing side of the Russian mafia, the two major things both sides are into are human trafficking, sex trafficking, I put that in one, and money laundering. And that comes up again and again in the research in the last week. All these guys, since I've been researching all this, and me and John Burston's been researching stuff with me as well, one that comes up again and again and again and again, no matter who these guys are, is the money laundering aspect of all this. And it goes right hand in hand with the human trafficking end of it. So, yeah, I think that there's a whole other end spectrum of this they're not telling us about and they're trying to keep covered up while putting all the focus on the, the underage girl and stuff, because, yeah, it's fucking horrible. I'm not trying to downplay that at all. What I'm saying is that's why it's the perfect thing to use to keep from having to tell us the complete and utter whole truth about this stuff. And I think that is where the motivation to have him whacked or the motivation for his death to be faked exists, is in the money laundering. Because again, this stuff we already know. We know this stuff was coming out anyway. It is going to come out anyway. The trial and the case and investigation is going to continue. Dead or alive, it doesn't matter. Dead or alive, you're coming with me. So if that's true, then it makes no sense for him to have been whacked or faked his death because of names that can't come out connected to his, underage girl stuff. No. What's more likely is that the people that he was involved in the money laundering with and people who he probably ripped off also happen to be people who he has fucking on tape. HD fucking 4K video, baby. That's what I'm thinking. This is a 2-for-1 deal here. It's not just that he had dirt and blackmail evidence and stuff on these rich and powerful people. It's that he was doing money laundering activities for them, and probably in some cases, not all, not only ripped off some motherfuckers, because, again, who you going to call? Who you going to call, bitch? You going to call the fucking police, the feds? You can't call them. You going to call them and tell them I fucking stole your dirty, laundered money you were trying to launder from me? You're fucked. You got shit. You got dick. Butt kiss. Oh, and by the way, yeah, if you go and try and do anything about it, just remember, look what I got, bitch. Remember you at that 14-year-old putting your fucking thumb in her ass in it? Look what I got right here, motherfucker. I got video. I got 4K video. We got this shit on the cloud. We got it backed up in perpetuity. That's what we're looking at here. You got to, anymore, you can't take anything at face value media tells you at all. And like I said, I've been studying this. I'm not an overnight fucking Johnny come lately on this shit where all these people all of a sudden act like they're experts on this. Everybody's been trying to ignore this for years. And now this happens. Now all of a sudden everybody's got the top theory. No, you're not looking at this right. This guy had people from all walks of life in his pocket. And, just this whole thing of just trying to pin it, oh, he's a pedophile pervert. And let's end it there. No, that's not all. Being a pedophile pervert's not going to make you billions upon billions of dollars. Having dirt on people, cleaning up people's dirty money. That's the kind of shit we're talking about. Maxwell told friend that Epstein's entire island was wired for video, presumably for blackmail purposes. Oh, this is interesting. We must find this degenerate wherever she may be. As I keep hearing Tommy Lee Jones' voice, your fugitive's name is Ghislaine Maxwell. We must find this degenerate wherever she may be hiding globally and bring her to justice. In the meantime, after reading this Vanity Fair piece, I'm revising my theory about that mysterious temple on Epstein's pedophile island. Old theory. The temple is a satanic playground where Epstein and his jet-set cohorts would do unspeakable things to children as part of some ritual sacrifice to Zozo or whatever. Oh, that's interesting. They would say that. That's that entity I've told you about. Jimmy Page worships. They've been worshiping since like around 1300, some demonic entity. That's why Jimmy Page had the Zozo on that dragon suit that you used to wear on stage with Led Zeppelin. New theory, the temple is actually a massive surveillance hub where Epstein would review and store all of his blackmail footage he recorded of his guests on the island, and also a satanic playground where he and his pals would do unspeakable things to children as part of some ritual sacrifice to Zoso or whatever. So yeah, that's the other thing. It's just like I was talking about with the R. Kelly stuff. We're supposed to believe that R. Kelly did all this unspeakable stuff to all these girls and was able to keep it under wraps for years, even though we knew back in like 2003 about the video of him pissing on some girl. And by the way, truth be told, I've always thought, and I still think, that whatever went down with Dave Chappelle and the Chappelle Show and that $50 million deal, there's been all kinds of speculation about it was the Illuminati and this, that, and the other. I don't think it was. I think it was because of the R. Kelly thing. Because they had really kept that under wraps, and it really wasn't a big... people heard about it. I remember hearing them talking about it on the radio and stuff. But I can tell you 100%, it was not the thing it was until Dave Chappelle did the fucking piss, 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 drip, 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 piss on you, and all that shit. I mean, that was what really, and I've heard, I think it was Neil Brennan who talked about it. Yeah, R. Kelly threatened to beat him up and all this shit, and then all of a sudden, they finally take R. Kelly down the same week as Epstein, by the way. And again, the same sort of narrative they're trying to spin with R. Kelly. He was just a sicko who likes underage girls, so he filmed all this stuff for himself. No, dude. You're going to tell me he filmed all that stuff? Not only filmed it, it's filmed with a fucking, a home video camera, or filmed with an iPhone or whatever. That's one thing. This motherfucker had professional cameras, professional lighting, like he's directing fucking Platoon or something. And then he leaves all these videos just out somewhere. They're not locked in a vault or in a safe or kept away from his house. That's bullshit. That's a lot of this stuff. That's why it's videoed, is not just videoed for blackmail purposes. They're selling this stuff off to these elite guys to the highest bidder. So they're not only getting off while they're doing it, people are paying them, and that's how they're able to get away with it and keep on doing it. Did you hear about this? Judge overseeing key Jeffrey Epstein-related suit dies. I'm sure that's a coincidence. Was that same day? Same day or the day after that Epstein supposedly died? An elderly federal judge presiding over a key lawsuit relating to financier pedophile Jeffrey Epstein died Sunday, so the day after. That's pure coincidence. I'm sure. Hey, people, just like they said in the Dominican Republic, right? Hey, people die. Why are you getting so upset? People die all the time. Just because these people were normally healthy and they all died after they came here. Hey, that's, so don't start using that where there's smoke, there's fire logic. Come on. Adding another twist to the drawn-out legal saga on efforts to unseal still secret documents detailing the conduct of Epstein, his enablers, and one of his accusers. Manhattan-based U.S. District Court Judge Robert Sweet passed away at Sunday at 96, the court announced. Well, okay, well, all right. All right. I'll give you that one. That may have been, even though I don't believe in this word. It very well may be a coincidence. I mean, the motherfucker was 96, but at the same time, stranger things have happened. It very well, and that's another good thing that could have been. You got to start thinking about this stuff way ahead, because that's how these guys think about this stuff. Maybe that's why that judge was given the case to begin with. You ever understand that? You ever question why certain judges get certain cases and other ones don't? I mean, the legal system's all a fucking rig. Come on. It's pay to play and it's price points like everything else. If you got the money to spend, you can get the best. I think somebody knew ahead of time, hey, look, this son of a bitch is 96 years old. All right. We give him the case. And if any shit goes down, we need to off Epstein and we need to off the judge handling the case. Well, look, he's fucking 96 years old, all right? Ain't nobody going to question it if this guy just happens to die in his sleep the day after Epstein does, okay? People will just say, oh, that's terrible. That's a terrible coincidence. You know what I mean? It very well could have been. That's the reason why they gave this guy the case to begin with. You got to think about things like that. I kept referring last week to Naomi Campbell as the bottom bitch. And I was surprised that a lot of people don't know what the term bottom bitch means. I'm really shocked. I thought everybody knew what that meant. And a lot of people don't know what it means. So you need to learn what that means. Naomi Campbell is the bottom bitch. That doesn't mean she's on the bottom. Okay, not in this case, by saying bottom means the opposite. It actually means the top. A bottom girl, bottom woman, or bottom bitch, I'm going to read you the definition, is an American term for a prostitute who sits atop the hierarchy of prostitutes working for a particular pimp. A bottom girl is usually the prostitute who has been with the pimp the longest and consistently makes the most money. Being the bottom girl gives the prostitute status and power over the other women working for her pimp. However, the bottom girl also bears many responsibilities. In the U.S. versus Pipkins, the 11th Circuit described the bottom girl's duties as, quote, working the track in her pimp's steed, running interference for and collecting money from the pimp's other prostitutes, and looking after the pimp's affairs if the pimp was out of town, incarcerated, or otherwise unavailable. Similarly, the training manual of the Hawaiian Prostitution Intervention Program explains that the bottom girl's obligations may include handling finances and training and recruiting other prostitutes. That is to a T the description of what Naomi Campbell is doing within the ranks of this elite modeling agency that is posing as a front for sex trafficking activities. That's a bottom bitch. That's what a bottom... Oh, Dad, I got lots of girlfriends. Sally's my bottom bitch. You remember that? Oh, what? I was on South Park one time. Butters starts running like this kissing service where you pay like $1 or whatever to kiss these girls, and then eventually it just turns into like a fucking prostitution ring, and he's got all these bitches. He's like, oh, forget about it, Dad. That's my bottom bitch. He starts calling Sally at school, but he's like, he referred to little Sally from his class as his bottom bitch. Yeah, it's hilarious. But yeah, there's that story that came out today where, 2 days after he died. And there's Naomi Campbell in all three pictures with that underage girl. The security lapses at the jail where Epstein killed himself. How a guard took a bribe from a Turkish gold dealer. And how a WikiLeaks leaker managed to share new information from phones smuggled into his cell. Jeffrey Epstein's apparent suicide has brought new scrutiny to the federal jail in New York, where he was being held, given the previous security lapses at the facility that houses some of the highest security inmates in the country. See, that's what I was saying. They already built that narrative up before this even happened. So they knew this was coming. Well, listen, we've already documented this. We already have these stories. We've already put it out there that it's understaffed and blah, blah, blah. So it's easy to sell that narrative if you've already presented that information to the public previously. It seems now in retrospect that everything that... When did he get arrested? God, he got arrested on my birthday, didn't he? That's fucking crazy. Back at the beginning of July. So everything that happened from the time that Epstein got arrested until he was found dead, any of the news that came out during that period from the beginning of July until this past Saturday, any of the stories about the Epstein stuff during that time, now we can look back on that and we can tell this was building a narrative. That's what they've been doing this whole time we've had him in custody. Is how to build a narrative to make his escape and fake death or possibly murder seem more plausible. That's what they've been doing. They've been building this narrative. Last year, a prison guard at the jail, Victor Casado, pleaded guilty to taking more than $25,000 in cash bribes to smuggle cell phones, alcohol, and food to a wealthy Turkish gold trader between 2016 and 2017. Okay, see, that's bait. So they tried to. That's what piqued my interest, because it says in the title of the article. I'll read it again. The security lapses at the jail where Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, how a guard took a bribe from a Turkish gold dealer, and how a WikiLeaks leaker managed to share new information from phones smuggled into his cell. They're trying to make this, see that? They want you to think that that's all connected. No, these are separate incidences that just happen to happen in the same jail. They have nothing to do with Epstein. It says that he also received thousands of dollars in payments from another inmate, which were given to him by the prisoner's relatives and a paralegal representing. Casado was sentenced in January to 3 years in prison by a judge who called the crime an assault on our entire system of justice. Reza Zarrab, who was also the Turkish gold trader involved with bribing the guard, was in prison over a money laundering scheme to Iran. That's interesting. Probably that whole jail is corrupt. It's just full of corrupt people. He has previously testified in court that someone tried to assassinate him at the prison when he implemented Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan in the scheme that would launder billions of dollars from the U.S. to Iran. I came face to face with an individual who was trying to take my life, and he pulled a knife on me, and I was about to lose my life. Zareb testified in 2017. He said that he had received instructions to kill because I was cooperating. A former CIA employee, Joshua Adam Schultz, is also accused of leaking classified files while he was locked up at the federal. Whoa! Hold up a second. Oh, snap. All right. Okay. Wow. Now, this is crazy. See what I'm saying? What I just said a second ago? There's a reason why he was in that specific jail. They own the whole thing. Y'all think this is the kind of shit you only see in movies. It's not. I'm telling you, it's real life. That's why they make those movies, so that when you hear about this kind of shit happening in real life, oh, that sounds like something out of a movie. Right. Because where do you think they got the idea from? From real life. Holy shit. So that's what they do. If they've got somebody like this guy who was involved in the in the gold and the Turkish money laundering scheme, and they think he's going to turn stool pigeon and sing, they bring him to that specific jail because they got their people running everything. Everybody's on the payroll. Anybody can be got. Yeah, this is making a lot more sense. My God. So a guy who implemented the president of Turkey in $1 billion money laundering scheme happened to be in that jail too, and some guy was going to kill him and said he'd received instructions to kill because I was cooperating. So he had to have received those instructions from somebody connected to the jail. And then there happens to be a CIA employee in there, Accused of leaking classified files when he was locked up, Schultz was charged last year with stealing classified national defense information from the CIA in 2016. He is believed to be behind the Vault 7 and 8 documents released by WikiLeaks. Oh, this is all making sense now. Authorities found multiple cell phones in his cell at the prison when they raided it in October last year. Officials also found 13 email and social media accounts that Schultz was allegedly using to communicate with those outside the prison. Prosecutors argued that the information he was allegedly disclosing behind bars was different to what WikiLeaks had published. Epstein's death is now the latest black eye for the jail and the wider U.S. Bureau of Prisons as well. See, that's the narrative. Well, it's just the problem is the jails. It's just this, that, and the other. Yeah, that's the fucking shill cover-up. Wow. See, I'm thinking about this differently now. Yeah. Listen. Same answer as always. I don't have all the answers. Nobody does. Everybody's just speculating. Whether you think he was offed, whether you think he committed suicide, or whatever it is, or you think he faked his death. The truth is, nobody knows for sure. But it's my duty to get up here and at least go through all of it with you so we collectively can try to come to what we think is the most plausible thing. I don't know, man. I just got to be honest. I just don't know. It could be any one of these things. I'm sure we'll continue to see more proof that'll lend us one way or the other, but this is interesting. I mean, these are high-level fucking people that have all gone through that jail. And again, just happened to be some guy that was connected to money laundering. One of the other cases happened to be somebody that was connected to leaking stuff to WikiLeaks. Yeah, this is, again, just like it always is, deeper and darker than anticipated. If that's true, if what they're saying here is true about these other cases, because it seems like anybody that they're afraid might, snitch or start running their mouth or cooperating with authorities, they take them specifically to this jail. And then, lo and behold, every time somebody comes along and tries to fucking off them. And then the excuse they have, well, we're understaffed, blah, 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 understaffed. Right. And that works for the public. And the public just, well, I'm outraged. But nothing gets done. And meanwhile, those people are still dead. And whatever justice may have been attempted to be enacted isn't enacted. Yeah, this is highly interesting. Well, it's possible. Yeah, it's definitely possible. I would say that if he was whacked, though, I mean, it's very possible that, wow, this is tough. I don't know. If I had to pick one side or the other, though, to say that he was whacked by, if he was whacked, he was definitely whacked by that right-wing Russian end that Trump is connected to. And if his death was faked, it was definitely faked by the more left-wing end that he's connected to with the Clintons and the Israeli Mossad and the rest of that. But I think that more of why this is now such a big thing is less to do with the sex trafficking and the pedophile stuff, which is exactly what they want us to all focus on, because it's fucking horrible and we should be focused on that. But meanwhile, the real story here is who all's money he was handling. And again, whether, because it'd be very easy for this guy to make tons of money off Vladislav Doronin and, his butt buddy, Leonardo DiCaprio. And like I said, we know that Trump was on board with that end for a while, and then there was a split. And then after that split is when you see him start to have alliances with the more right wing end of the Russian mafia. It's very possible that Trump's original relationship back when he was friends with Epstein was a relationship based on him laundering money for Trump. And it's possible that he fucked Trump out of his money. Trump went and aligned with their competition, the right-wing end of the Russian mafia. And this is how they're getting payback. And, they're going to get their money one way or the other. You know that. They're the mafia. They're going to get it. It's definitely possible. Especially in light of the fact that immediately Trump was tweeting tweets trying to blame the death of Epstein on the Clintons. And that just reeks. That reeked to me. The fucking president of the United States is tweeting out Clinton conspiracy theories. That reeks. So, in conclusion, I think it's possible that they faked his death. I think that's definitely a possibility. It's definitely possible he's sitting in Moscow right now sipping fucking vodka tonics and fucking finger blasting a 14-year-old. But it's also possible that the whole reason why they brought this thing down in the first place, when he was seemingly getting away with it for so many years, and why all of a sudden they busted him under the Trump administration, and then all of a sudden he, air quotes, dies. I mean, it's perfect. The German public's going to think he just offed himself because he was a coward, sicko, pedophile, and that's it. That becomes the narrative. And the fact that he was whacked for possibly ripping off Trump in some money laundering thing with Trump, who's Trump going to go to? Ain't nobody you can really go to in that situation except the mafia. If somebody's laundering money for you and they rip you off and you can't go to the authorities about it, who else are you going to go to get your business done? You're going to have to go to those guys. And if you've already got, where he lives, where Epstein lives, where jurisdiction and what city and what state you're going to arrest him in, what he's going to be charged with, and where jail he's going to go to. And by the way, we just happen to send him to a jail where, where people who we think are going to snitch, that's where we send them, because we control everybody there, so then we can off them if we need to. A lot of smoke there, a lot of fire. Definitely, like I said, like I told you last week, there's no question about it that there's an internal war going on between the left wing and the right wing side of the Russian mafia. And there's a side that is connected with Trump and with the CMP and with Alex Jones and all those guys. And then there's a left wing side that's connected with Vladislav Doronin and Naomi Campbell and Hollywood and that whole end of it. That 100% is going on. And, whether this was suicide, a fake death, or an internal hit, one thing's for sure, it's much bigger than what the public thinks it is. And isn't that usually generally always the case with all this stuff, isn't it, folks? I'm sure we'll have more to talk about on the next show. I'm sure there's more I didn't get into tonight that I'll talk about. Oh, I did want to relate to you something else real quick. If you have not seen the new Netflix series, is a 5-part Netflix series just came out called The Family. If you're into this research that I've done and the stuff I've been doing for years, specifically the stuff into the Council for National Policy, the secretive right-wing groups, and this more recent stuff that connects all that to Russia You need to go watch this 5-part series on Netflix called The Family, because this guy who was, he's pretty much, I would say he's pretty much the sort of the main focus of the film. A lot of it has to do with the national prayer breakfast and all that. But anyway, this guy, Doug Coe, who they talk about, Dougcoe, Doug Coe, you see him throughout the video and stuff. He was a Council for National Policy member. And it's interesting because a lot of the activities and a lot of the stuff that he did took place before the foundation of the Council for National Policy. But you can see that the agenda was exactly the same. You know, a theocratic form of government, doing away with the separation of church and state. And these guys having openly talking about, in this documentary, you see them openly talk about gaining power from secrecy and having secretive groups. And here is this Doug Coe guy. He's saying this before the CNP was even formed. And then not long after that, it gets formed and he becomes a member. And the third episode is even called New World Order. And they talk about how these right-wing guys were all trying to create a secret theocratic world order. So if you've, excuse me, if you've been into my Council for National Policy, CNP research and all that stuff, and you see my films, The Secret Right, Volume 1 and 2 and all that, and you've seen Spellcasters 1, yeah, you're definitely going to go watch this, because now that it's cool, it's interesting because it fills in a bunch of the blanks and stuff that I could never fill in with what I do, you know, because it's looking at a whole other different end of it. But if you watch that series and you've seen my films and know about my research and this stuff, you'll have a lot of aha moments in there. They show Russia connections with these right-wing guys going back decades. Like I told you, that whole thing with the Russians and these guys working with right-wing Christian theocrats, that's not fucking new. It's not a new happening. This has been happening for decades. So, yeah, The Family, Netflix, watch it. Please hit the contribution banner. We haven't had any real set goals since the first of the month, so this week our goal is just to raise at least $400 of our total operating cost goal for the month, and then we'll be good. We won't have any goals until later on in the month. So just please contribute what you can. Get yourself some downloads. Buy my download collection box set that has all my films and all my audiobooks in it. It's $175. It's the best deal. Get yourself that. Make a contribution. You can use the donate button on my website. You can use the campaign page banner. Get a subscription to the archives. Do whatever you can do. Contribute to our new computer fundraiser. But let's see some movement, guys. I appreciate it. I love you guys so much. And I'll be back here with you again for another show very soon. Take care, guys. See you next time.